Welcome into another edition of Hand Raised Guys, presented by Comer Heating and Air and Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. I'm Neil McCready. Tonight on the show, David Nuno of TexAgs.com will join, preview Saturday night's game between Ole Miss, number 15 ranked Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. It's a 6:30 game. SEC Network there at Kyle Field in College Station. We'll talk a lot about things from the Texas A&M perspective with David, get his thoughts on what all's going on in College Station with the Aggies. A lot of controversy, a lot of things happening. We'll get his thoughts on that, how it impacts the game. He and I both think this is a must-win game for Texas A&M, and in some ways, in many ways, a must-win game for the Rebels as well. We'll also talk to Ben Mintz, as we always do each and every Thursday, get his thoughts on Ole Miss, Texas A&M, the rest of the college football slate, and then the entire week ahead in the National Football League. So a lot of that coming your way here in just a minute. But first, I want to tell you we're brought to you by Comer Heating and Air. Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. It's getting chilly outside at night. The cold weather on its way. You want to make sure that that heating system is ready to run, that it's safe to operate. So get in touch with the people at Comer if you live in Oxford, Tupelo, or the surrounding area. Southern, if you live in Memphis, Hernando, DeSoto County, that area. Get in touch with them. Have them come out, check your heating system, make sure it's operational, make sure it's safe, make sure you're good to go, so that when the cold weather arrives, you can turn on that heater and have peace of mind and feel like you can leave your house and things like that. Everything's good. They'll take care of you. Their customer service is absolutely fantastic. Eric Payne and all the people there at Comer and Southern are wonderful. They'll take great care of you. And please do us a favor and tell them that you heard about Comer and Southern here at MPW Digital. So a lot on the show, a lot on the network, I should say, here today. We've had Pete's Pigskin Preview earlier in the day. That's brought to you by Walk-On Sports Bistro. They put everything they've got into bringing you game day with a taste of Louisiana. Dig into their mouth-watering, made-from-scratch Louisiana cuisine like po' boys, gumbo, voodoo shrimp, plus fan favorites like juicy burgers and fresh salads, all in front of 70-plus TVs. 40-plus ice-cold beers on tap. Check them out in Oxford or Ridgeland. And don't forget, whether you're watching the game at home or tailgating in the Grove, let Walk-Ons take care of all of your tailgating needs this season. Inquire today about their family and friends bundles, their tailgate platters. You can order online or on their convenient Walk-Ons app. This will be the Friday Oxford Exxon podcast. So, again, thanks to the people at Oxford Exxon. Blue Sky, we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary next month with the Oxford Exxon and Blue Sky. Stop by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Always a great place to fill up, both at the pump and inside. Always clean, always convenient, great snacks, soda, beer, the whole deal. It's all there at the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford. I'm coming to you from the Clark Ford Studios. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number to call. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Right to the bottom line. There's no hassle. There's no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is completely up to you. You can shop that quote around, or you can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. David Nuno and Ben Mintz join on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline. Rafters Music and Food on the Square in Oxford. Great place to stop, have a burger, a po' boy, appetizer. Got great beer selection, full bar, and more. Stop by before the college kids take it over late at night and make it a part of your weekend. If you're watching the Texas A&M game, maybe you're watching some of the other games earlier in the day, Rafters be a good place to stop. Also, don't forget about Rafters in New Albany. We've got a lot of other shows up on the network this week. The Butcher versus the Spin Instructor presented by LB's Meat Market. That is up as well. Campbell, McCready, Greg Jones making their picks. So you can check that out. And don't forget to check out LB's Meat Market, 2008 University Avenue in Oxford. We'll have the MPW Digital Postgame Show presented by Dead Soxy. That's coming your way Saturday night after Ole Miss, Texas A&M. It's deadsoxy.com. Best socks you'll ever put on your feet. 25% off with the promo code Rebel Grove. And we get the Davis and Igmanosin Show brought to you by the College Corner. It's collegecornerstore.com, plus 2 locations in Jackson. Largest selection of Rebel gear in Central Mississippi. The Mason Brooks Show is up, brought to you by the Rogue, 4450 I-55 North in Jackson, or therogue.com. And again, the Troy Brown Show, also brought to you by our friends at Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating. So let's go to the Rafters Music and Food Hotline now. David Nuno of TexAgs.com. David Nuno of TexAgs does a great job doing Texas A&M coverage. He's kind enough to come on our show here. David, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for joining the show, or me joining the show. I'm so used to having you on my show. I'm now on your show. So thank you for having me. Better said, Neil.
It's the big trade. So there's so much to get to at Texas A&M. Honestly, I don't even know where to start. I'm curious, before the season, if I had told you 7 games in, A&M's 3-4, 1-3 in the league, would you have believed me?
Nope. No, and I should have, really. The signs were here before, Neil. To be 100% honest, they were here as early as the second game of the season last year. But no, I came into this season thinking 10 wins is what they should do. 9 would be, okay, but this should be a 10-win team. And the reason I base that is I thought Zach Calzada was a very average to below average quarterback last year who had an amazing game against Alabama. And I thought, you get Haynes King, the guy you expected to be the starter, with all these freshmen coming in, and the fact that Anaya Smith, Damani Richardson coming back, I thought for those reasons alone that this team should be a 10-win team. Of course, life in the SEC is tough. Year 5 of Jimbo, I'm believing that this was going to be something. But in reality, this offense has struggled for so long. You go back to that Colorado game where they scored at the very end. They could not score on Colorado. That's the game where Haynes King got hurt and Zach had to come in. But then you saw it for most of the year. You beat Alabama on a night that everything went perfect, right? Everything was looking amazing. You had just lost to Arkansas. You had just lost to Mississippi State. People had written you off, but somehow you figured it out. And then you carry that momentum and you win a couple games against some inferior opponents, against Missouri, South Carolina. Then the Auburn game comes. You beat Auburn 20-3, but you score no offensive touchdowns, okay? Since the South Carolina game, this offense, and I think it's like 9 games in a row, has scored less than 24 points. You go to the Ole Miss game. They fall in a 15-0 hole right away. You barely score enough to get back in that game, but you do, and Lane Kiffin kind of helps you with some going forward on 4th downs a couple times. Then you go to the LSU game. You get up. You should win that game. You should be 9-3, but Max Johnson throws a touchdown at the end. You still score 20 points, whatever it was in that game. You go to this year. Against Sam Houston, you're up just 10-0 with 3 minutes left in the first half, a game that you expected to play all 3 of your quarterbacks and all your running backs and all those things. The signs have been here for a long time. The offense has to be a great offensive line for this offense to work. We saw that in 2020 with a bunch of veterans on that O-line. Since then, a bunch of young players and an antiquated offense. Unfortunately, I believe that, yes, there are plays to be made there, but it's just too much processing going on.
You just said the word antiquated. I was going to ask you, is this just schematic with Jimbo? I mean, he from 30,000 feet away, he looks stubborn and trying to just hammer this round peg into this or square peg into a round hole, just hammering on it. And it's like, hey, it doesn't fit, man. You keep doing it's not going to go in there, right? And that's what it looks like. You're a lot closer to it. You're right there across the stadium in your studios. You're at all the games, a lot of practices. Is that even close to accurate?
Yes and no. And this is what I mean by that.
Okay.
All these games that they've lost this year, and yet the offense is horrendous, right? All these games that they've lost this year, they've been a possession away from winning, right? A dumb mistake from winning, all of them. You can't fall 17-0 on the road in an SEC stadium and expect to win that game. They had a chance to win, though. They came down to the very last play. Same thing with Arkansas, a game that they won. Came down to the very last play. Arkansas misses their field goal. A&M had just missed theirs prior, by the way. Arkansas misses theirs. Mississippi State, you lose by 18. But really, 2 plays in that game go different. It's a completely different game. You give up a blocked kick for a touchdown, which the guy was offsides, but whatever. That changes the complexion of that game. And also, A-Chain drops a fumble inside the 5-yard line. You score that touchdown, you're leading 14-0. It's a different feel, right? So, yes, stubborn is part of it, but the plays are there to be made to his credit where the game feels different. But does it really matter when you are scoring? You make those plays. You're still scoring 28, 30 points, right? That's why I think the Alabama game, as great as it was for recruiting and for what it did for the spotlight and all the ammunition, that Alabama game masked a real issue, which is things have to go perfect for this team to beat teams. And that I still think you can run the ball effectively and have a great offensive line and win these games and that ball control offense that Jimbo wants to do. But it needs to look easier. And I see a bunch of quarterbacks, now 4, that are thinking way too much and not having the time to think because the O-line is struggling.
So now you have some off the field stuff. There's Outkick was the one that I read the most recently. They're saying it was drug use, marijuana use specifically in the locker room at South Carolina before the game. 3 players being suspended, maybe 4, but I think it's 3. What are you hearing there? And is that a sign that he being Jimbo is kind of losing the team a little bit here in late October?
At the time of this taping, I don't know if we can confirm that report. I'll just say that. I know Billy's been working it, and there's certain things we've heard as well. But I will say that these kind of things happen everywhere. We live in a different social media world where I felt that we had to report on it. Billy was the first to report on it last night at around 9:45 in the evening, and something he had been holding on for a couple of days, to be honest with you. But once it gets out there, you kind of have to report on it. And I think that these things happen. I've had some former players that I've talked to that, yeah, we had stuff like that in my day too. Unfortunately, young players being involved in it's all about winning, right? When you win, like think about the Jermaine Burton situation with Alabama. To me, that what I saw on camera is gross. And not to compare the situation, but what I'm saying is they're winning. Nick Saban's hearing about playing him, but they're winning. The local fans, at least, can move on from that point. This team is losing, so it feels a lot bigger than it is. That being said, you better find a way to win some games down the stretch, because we live in a new world where NIL and transfers happening. And if you don't win games, these guys can be like, you know what? It ain't worth it. I'm not playing and we're losing. I'm out. This offense can't score. I'm a defensive player playing my butt off. This is not worth my time. I'll go somewhere that has an offense and I can be the best player on their defense. So yeah, he's got to start winning some of these games. I don't think Jimbo has lost control of the team. I think there is a perception that the program is hurting. But let's not forget, the University of Texas right down the road went 5-7 last year and had their own issues. Didn't they have the monkey bite a kid, an assistant coach? Like, these things are happening everywhere. Right now we're in the storm and it feels like we're the only ones. And again, not everyone is losing winnable games. Not everybody's having kids suspended for whatever reason. But issues happen on teams that don't win. And it's how you battle back from that. What message can you sell about the future? And that's, I think, the hardest thing that Jimbo's got to do right now.
So let's talk about Saturday a little bit. Ole Miss coming in there, having lost its first game of the season to LSU in kind of blowout fashion, really, from the first part of the second quarter on. It was 42-3 LSU. So Ole Miss licking its wounds. Ole Miss kind of beat up, a lot of injuries, a lot of question marks about who's going to be able to play, that kind of thing. Texas A&M has some of that as well. Offensive line shake up a little bit because of injury. And then what's happening at the quarterback position there?
So according to Jimbo yesterday, that Haynes should be good to go. But you know how coaches are. They keep things as close to the vest as possible in today's world. If it were me, I'm giving Connor Wegman the keys to the team for multiple reasons. I think the quarterback play overall has been very below average anyway. So why not give the keys to the young 5-star? And I think it sends a sign to the young players like, hey, this is your future. This is your guy. The guy you came in here with, that everybody wanted to play with, well, we're giving him the keys, and let's see what he can do. And also, if next year is going to be the year. Again, I don't know how the transfer portal is going to work out for this team with the way they're going. But the feeling for a long time has been 2023 is the year. I don't want a quarterback in 2023 making his first SEC road start that year. I want it to happen now, because I want to get some of those growing pains out of the way. So when next year comes, it almost feels like Bryce Young, right? Like, you know, Bryce Young obviously did not start when Mac Jones was there, but, you know, having some time to see how things are done and be a professional or semi-pro as they are now in college to next year and do it. I want that to be the case. So I say, give Connor as many opportunities as possible. From a wide receiver standpoint, Evan Stewart is phenomenal. Throw the ball up. That guy can make some plays. He's exactly what A&M has needed for a long time. If they get any blocking, which they haven't had a very good job of this year with all the injuries and just they haven't played well, this team can move the ball. Can they score touchdowns? That's a completely different question. And that's, at the end of the day, the biggest question. Can you score touchdowns? Because you haven't done it in like 9 games.
Defensively, A&M's a really talented team. They've still, I mean, the number, like when I was in Tiger Stadium and I was working post game, and someone goes, it's 17-0 South Carolina. I was like, really? was kind of stunned, and I thought, God, what happened? Did Spencer Rattler just sort of figure it out all of a sudden? It was like, no, I mean, Carolina's got like 19 yards of offense. And I was like, well, I don't understand. And it was kickoff return and a fumble and an interception and all that stuff. But defensively, they've been pretty solid. So 2 questions. How do you think they sort of attack Ole Miss? And then secondly, is there any visual frustration from a defense that's played better than 4-3?
Not visual, not yet. But they're human, right? I'm sure they're thinking to themselves. So, when you do a 3-hour radio show, 5 days a week, 15 hours of content, plus everything else you do, you find areas to nitpick, right? If I were going to nitpick on the defense, I would say they give up too much rushing yards. And in the game against South Carolina, with the game on the line, they were tired. They gave up an 80-yard drive and a touchdown where they rushed the ball for 50 yards on that drive. So that's me nitpicking. But the reality is, every team that has played against that defense, their offense does worse than they normally do, right? Mississippi State, I don't really Mississippi State beat them by 18. They scored some points, but some of that was special teams, and the offense wasn't moving the ball at all. But Alabama, with a backup quarterback, obviously, and Jalen Milroe, did not score the normal points that they do. South Carolina did not move the ball well against A&M. This defense can stop teams from scoring. They do struggle with mobile quarterbacks. They do struggle with the running backs, but they have gotten better now with a little bit of health. Andre White's back at linebacker. That made a difference last week. McKinley Jackson's been back the last couple weeks. They're at nose tackle. He's made a difference as well. So the defense is good. It's not great, because if you can run the ball and you score, and teams find a way to score in the fourth quarter, but considering the positions the defense has been put in all year long, they played exceptional, I think, because they're having to defend, 20 yards. Like, that's it. You're already in the red zone and you're getting started, and that's happened too many times.
It's funny. This is a game that's going up against Kentucky, Tennessee, which is a lot sexier, frankly, nationally. It's going up against the World Series game 2, which will have a lot of Houston area people, I'm sure, that are A&M people kind of doing the split screen thing. But this is a critical game for both teams, I think. I mean, for Ole Miss, David, a loss going into the open day with Alabama next and then a trip to Arkansas, all of a sudden, for the first time in a long time, there'd be a little bit of almost panic. For Texas A&M, a loss drops you to 3-5 and makes it really difficult to go, hey, there's a way to salvage something out of this season. And you'd have to really start spinning, like James Carville style, to sort of come up with a positive out of that kind of a year. Everybody does the Texas 8-4 jokes. Well, 8-4 would not even be realistic at that point. I mean, it's out, right? So how do you sense that there's that focus on this game? Like, hey, this is one that it's a simple must win, bottom line.
At least from the fans and the media, absolutely, because it's the first time they've been back at Kyle Field in over a month. This team is a different team at Kyle Field, as most teams are. At home, they play better, right?
Sure.
But there's something magical about Kyle Field. There is. And yes, there are going to be a lot of people at that game. Maybe not what we would have thought, 2 weeks ago, but there are going to be a lot of people at that game. I'm expecting 90,000 plus, right? That's the people who were already camping out Friday of last week for these tickets. It's been a month since they played at Kyle Field. So this game is so important for what you can sell the current players on this team. You're re-recruiting them right now, right? Because in this new transfer world, you start going 3-5, 3-6. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to redshirt. I'm done. I'm going to hit the transfer portal at the end of the year. Goodbye. You win this game, you still have a chance to go 8-4. Do I believe that's realistic with the way the offense goes? No. But you can sell it to your team.
Sure.
You can also sell to your team, hey, we should only have one loss max this year, right? Because you should have won the Bama game if you had any offense. And I've used this comparison on my show too many times, but what are they, 119th ranked offense? If you have just the 60th ranked offense in the country, you're 6-1 right now. Because you win Appalachian State, for sure. You win again. Well, Arkansas, you won regardless. Mississippi State, maybe. Alabama, you win because Alabama was giving you that game. And I think South Carolina, you were if you're not as bad offensively in that game, you don't lose by just 6 points. You win that game. And in my opinion, their offense has been that bad, but they're giving games away with the special teams touchdowns, with the turnovers, with 8 false starts that they had in the last game, with the way they break down on third downs. So, you have to win this game. And I do expect, like I saw in the Miami game, after they lost to Appalachian State and a couple players got suspended, Jimbo had to do a refocusing job. Now, this is the second time in the same season that you're having a come-to-Jesus meeting with the team, which is a problem.
Yes.
But you are now at home. in a manageable part of your schedule. Ole Miss is probably I don't know, maybe LSU is the hardest team. Initially, I would have said Ole Miss was the hardest part of your schedule the rest of the way, but I thought South Carolina would be a win. It wasn't. But these are all winnable games. They're also losable games. Don't make mistakes and make it hard for you. Play as clean football as you can, and then you'll see these games that you're giving away, maybe you'll take them.
In a scenario, David, where this goes badly down the stretch, let's say they lose to Ole Miss, they drop one of the two games to Auburn and Florida, they lose to LSU, beat UMass. I guess that puts them at 6-6. I know Jimbo's safe. The contract is prohibitive. Do you anticipate change on the offensive staff? Is that something he's amenable to? There's been some kind of rumors along those lines. Does he bring in a coordinator and a new scheme and relinquish play calling and just kind of become a CEO? Is that something he's willing to do?
I do expect a change. And Billy reported that maybe 3 weeks ago, like that he expects a change. And this is before things got even worse, right? They were already looking bad. Now, what we think is you may bring in somebody, but I don't think Jimbo's going to relinquish play calling. He loves it. That's his baby. And he's actually really good at it. Aside of that last play against Alabama, he's actually pretty good, but the system is too complicated or something's not working, right? So simplify it, figure something out. I think when you're as good as Jimbo is, and I do think he's a great coach, I'm not saying that they need to fire him. I think he is a great CEO, but there's too much on his plate right now for 2 calendar seasons for the offense to be this bad. So yeah, I do expect changes. And if you want to sell recruits, you want to keep your own guys, you better show them, look, I'm bringing in this young up-and-coming guy. Look what he did last year with this school and that school, the TCU, Riley, whatever, whoever it is. Bring in a guy that's up-and-coming that you can still play call but get his philosophy in there and simplify. Then I think you can resell it to everybody like, hey, this is the year. Like I said a moment ago, if you give me the 60th best offense in the country, you're winning most of these games. Well, bring in a guy who's known for that. I think you get everybody, the fans, the current players, and those recruits that are right now wondering, why do I want to go there? They don't score. All right, I see why. They figured this out. You have to.
I know they've been impossible to predict, but do you have kind of just a gut feeling as to what happened Saturday night?
They haven't been blown out at all in a couple of years, right? So it's going to be a close game. I see A&M winning it right now, but I have changed my mind on this team by the hour every week. Yeah. Since the App State game, the Miami game, I talked myself into wins, into losses. Alabama, I did predict that they would win. They almost won. So like it's weird. I think they win because they're at home, and this is it. This is it. You don't win this game, I think the whole thing blows up. And that's a lot of pressure for a young team, and maybe some of them are already out. If they're already out, they weren't that invested anyway. So I would say I see them winning, but nothing would surprise me with the way this offense doesn't move the ball.
I know you only have a couple more minutes. I'm going to switch subjects real quick because you worked in that Houston market for a long time. The Astros, back in the World Series, they had the cheating scandal with the trash cans and all that stuff, and people talked about it forever. George Springer left. Carlos Correa left. And yet they just keep winning. They were clearly the best team in the American League over the balance of the season. I think they're the favorite to beat the Phillies in the World Series. What's been sort of the secret sauce for that organization and to overcome the cheating scandal and the big suspensions and all of that stuff? And yet here they are back in the World Series as a favorite to win it.
Well, look, this is from a longtime Houston fan, right? I covered them in the media for such a long time, but I grew up in Houston. That's my team. They are the face of the cheating scandal without a doubt, and they deserve it, and they got to own it. But they weren't the only ones, and it's been proven that the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers all got in trouble for maybe not the extent that the Astros went, right? But they're all involved in it. But I will tell you, I think Dusty Baker is the right guy. As much as I don't sometimes agree with everything, right? Who does, right? Like A.J. Hinch, as much as I loved him, I didn't agree with him, taking out certain pitchers in certain moments, right? Like there's things that all managers do, but I think his temperament, what he has gone through, he's kind of like a grandpa in that clubhouse, but in a lovable way that everybody wants to make him happy. I think he was a calming influence. And when they hired him, I wasn't sure. I didn't want to get rid of A.J. Hinch. I was like, bring A.J. back and apologize and move on. But they made the right move. I think that's part of it. The other part is Jose Altuve, even though he's having a rough postseason, is the heart of that city beyond just that clubhouse. People love that guy. in Houston. I know outside people like to say, but he wasn't involved in the cheating scandal. That's been proven. That's been documented. It's been backed up by his teammates and by the Major League Baseball report. He is a lovable guy who comes to work every single day. The other part of that is the pitching staff, like Verlander, and they just have done such a good job in development. Framber Valdez, how good has he been? Lance McCullers.
It's been amazing. I mean,
right?
Verlander, when he got traded from Detroit there at the deadline, he wanted to go to the Cubs, and the Cubs passed on him because they were afraid that he was done. And he goes to Houston, and they kind of found something because he wasn't pitching like that in Detroit. He gets to Houston, they obviously saw something, and they fixed something. And I mean, he's had this rejuvenation of his career at the age of 40 or 39 or whatever he is.
Yeah, he has been huge, and just like they've got so much great pitching. Look, it took a long time. I was there to cover some Astro teams that won 60+ games, and it was not fun in Jose's first few years. But they learned how to win, and they adopted this NWO, us against the world, Hollywood Hulk Hogan style. When everybody hated them, they played some of their best baseball. Now, they haven't won the World Series, right? They lost last year to a hot Braves team. They lost to a very hot Nationals team a couple years ago, but they're resilient. And I think that starts with Jose Altuve. And yeah, they lose Carlos Correa, who I think is, not only a guy that I really enjoyed covering, he's just a good dude and had a flash for the dramatics, as did George Springer winning that World Series MVP. But they're just consistent, and Alex Bregman has never not made it to the ALCS. Think about that. His entire career has been there.
Yeah.
So they got guys that just live up to the moments. And Bregman's had his rough years too, right? In postseason as well. And he was involved in the scandal. This guy's been huge. Could have easily been your ALCS MVP, but Pena, obviously as great as he was, takes it. They just got gamers that know how to do it when it matters. And I would love for the Astros to win because I'm an Astros guy. But I'd love to do it to give some distance to 2017 so the Astros talk comes to an end. It'll never completely go away. But I think for some people, they'll see Jose as a Hall of Famer if he gets another World Series.
Yeah, I think if they win it, it goes away. Frankly, I think it's already gone away because there's a consistency to them. Like if they finish fourth in the West or something 2 or 3 years, you'd be like, oh, well, that's the reason they won was they cheated. No, the reason they won was because they were really, really good. And you see that continuity over the years, and it's incredible. And they're playing a red-hot Phillies team. It should be a really fun World Series. David, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Hope to see you soon.
I appreciate you, sir.
Ben Mintz, as he always does, joins us from Barstool Sports. Ben, first of all, before we get started about all the different games this weekend and all of that stuff, before we talk about what happened last week in Baton Rouge and all of those things, I want to congratulate you right here publicly on the show. You've been a big part of what we've done the last couple of years, and I know you've worked really hard. Barstool saw that. They rewarded you with, I think a 3-year deal, and so congratulations.
Thank you. I just want to, while I'm on here, I just want to say thank you to all the Ole Miss fans that have supported me. This whole deal has been nuts. I mean, I moved to New York, spent one night in my life here, knew nobody, but I knew how big of an opportunity this was for Barstool to work at Barstool, and I knew I had to do it. But I definitely would not be getting this extension without, specifically the baseball team and that run in Omaha. And also just the fans. I mean, I've gotten awesome support. I have a great relationship with the university, with the fans. I'm very, very lucky to have it. And I think that's a huge reason I just got this 3-year deal. And, Neil, I'll just be honest, man, you're in media too. I mean, I went back to Ole Miss in 2014 and 15, and I started grinding sports radio in Bossier and Shreveport. I did that 4 years, but you never really have any security. It's always year to year. And then I got hired by ESPN Baton Rouge. And then but I was out selling ads to make money there. And then I got Barstool, but you get a 1-year prove-it deal. And then after my first year, they gave me another 1-year deal, a small raise. So to hear Erica Nardini call me in the office and say, hey, we love you. Dave and I think you're doing an awesome job, and we want you to be part of this for a long time. And we're going to offer you a 3-year extension. I mean, I've been working for 8 years for that moment. So it just really, really felt good. And there's more coming, more announcements coming that we're not going to get into today. But I'm just so excited about the next 3 years. And I think, we're just getting started here. I mean, all this means is I have a bigger opportunity now. I got to take advantage of it.
You are an example of what I try to preach to my kids a good bit, which is it's so much of success. And it took me a long time to figure this out. Maybe it took you a long time too. I don't know. So much of success is about hustle. So much of success is about finding something that you like, finding something that you're good at. And that's important. You got to like it and you've got to be good at it. And then you got to work really hard. Those are the people that really make it, like Portnoy. I mean, Dave didn't start rich.
No.
You know, he had a plan, he had a thought, he had an idea. He's good at it. He loves it, but he works really, really hard. And that's what's required. And with rare exception, right? There are some people who are just so freaking talented or you know, so beautiful or whatever that life comes easily. But for most people, it's about hustle. It's about hard work, and it's about being good at something. And you know, I deal with this, not to make this about me because I want to get it back.
No, you get it. It's me. You're in media too.
This is what I'm saying, though. It's funny, you know, because I have my oldest daughter, who you see her show sometimes, The Butcher versus the Spin Instructor. She is getting out of college, you know, and so much of what is on her mind right now, like all 21-year-olds, is, well, where am I going to go? You know, where should I go? Nashville would be fun, or Dallas would be fun. And I get that. I totally get that mentality. But I'm like, hey, make sure that you don't at 21 be so focused on the money and the market that you don't get a job with people that you like, at a job that you think you can grow in, a job that you think you'll enjoy, because it don't matter how much money you make if it's drudgery. And on the flip side, if you don't make any money, it doesn't matter how much, you know what I mean? You got to have some room for growth. You have to have people who will push you and all of those things. And you got that. I mean, you got this opportunity and they were like, hey, do you want to come to New York? And at first I think you were like, I don't know. And then you just said, yeah, I'm coming. And then you just dove in, and the rest is, like you said, the rest is in that 3-year deal that you just got.
Yeah, I agree. So Erica Nardini, our CEO, tells us this all the time. Like, there's stuff with Barstool that makes you unique. She's like, big thing she always says, you can't fake passion. You just can't do it. And I'm not the kind of person that could be an accountant or a banker or a lawyer or any of that. I mean, I would make it 20 minutes in those jobs. And, you know, the thing with sports media, I mean, obviously it's a grind. You know, media is not easy to make money. I mean, there's no doubt. It's one of those things, you do it because you get to talk about sports and you get to go to a lot of cool events and you get to network, and there's a ton of good stuff with it. But, you know, this is what I'm passionate about. And the thing with Barstool is they tell us this all the time. They're just like, we hired you to be you. And so I know I look ridiculous on camera all the time. I mean, it's what it is, but I own it. And I think that I love working for a company that just that's what they want. And then, you know, we're meeting on our extension, and, you know, it's not one word of like, hey, we want you to write this many blogs, or we want you to do podcasts, we want you to program. She literally is just like, the only thing Dave and I are concerned about is you continue to be comfortable to be yourself. We know the rest is going to work out. And like, to hear your CEO tell you that at Barstool Sports, man, I mean, just an extremely gratifying moment. Especially because, like I said, I mean, 8 years went into this, and, you know, just I'm very thankful. Also, cannot forget to thank Lane Kiffin and the football program, and Keith Carter too. I said baseball, but Lane was a huge reason I got hired with Dave, and so I don't want to be remiss and screw that up. But the big thing now is how you look at it, though, Neil, and you do this too. Like, I could look at it like, oh, I've got it made now. I got a 3-year extension. They obviously think highly of me. No, now I've got an opportunity to go from, like, I think I'm a very good role player in this office. I don't think I'm one of the biggest stars. I'm not. I don't have my own brand. I'm on a bunch of different shows. I contribute to a lot of stuff. But now they're showing me this faith, and they're giving me more resources. It's time to go from a really good role player to one of the stars. And I got a lot of ideas, and a lot of stuff's coming down the line, and I firmly believe it's going to happen.
Well, the other thing you have going for you is I don't think you have a severe fear of failure. And so you're not afraid to take some chances. And so sometimes you'll try things that won't work, right? You know, and you have to be able to, it's like the closers. They gave up the 3-run home run on Tuesday to lose the game. And on Wednesday, they don't even remember it. I mean,
oh yeah, no, last week, which is a prime example. This is a great segue into what happened last week. I went hard against LSU fans last week, and like, everybody knows I came up through ESPN Baton Rouge, and that's a lot of my supporters are from there, maybe from Louisiana. And I told them they could all, I really, really went at them. And I had to turn my Twitter off Saturday after it.
That did not work out for you.
No, tiger droppings. There are huge threads of tiger droppings coming at me. They said, T-Bob, and it just was coming from every angle. I'm just like, you know what? We're just not going to look at all this. I asked for this. I kind of definitely poked the bear, talking all that smack to him. And, it is what it is. Things went very poorly in that second half.
You've spent time down there. I have too. You've been around that program. I've been around it a lot back in my Mobile days. I've seen good teams go to Tiger Stadium and get beat. Ole Miss got beat pretty good. I've seen people trying to spin it a little this week with, if they'd scored going in the third quarter, and if they no. You lost the last three quarters 42-3. That's getting beat. You've got to take something from that and learn from it and readdress your shortcomings, or else it will repeat itself. You were there. You saw it. When you got over the emotion of it, when you look back on it from a little more analytical perspective, what went wrong?
A lot of things. Lane talked about the post game. I don't understand why they hadn't been playing that Harold Perkins freshman, that number 40 linebacker. He tore us a new one in that second half. And, he made a huge difference. But the O-line, the protections fell apart. Dart didn't have any time. There's been a thing. It seems like under Lane, do you notice it seems like our game plans are awesome first half, and we score a lot of first half points, but sometimes the second half it slows down a little bit?
Yeah, it's been an issue this year with the exception.
Yeah, Kentucky game too.
The Vanderbilt game's the exception. They came out and jumped on Vanderbilt, but they've had a lot of weird second halves, and you wonder how much of that is Lane and Charlie Weiss not being on the same page, or is it people know what's coming? Is it not creative enough? Is that there's not enough of a weapon at wide receiver over the top to take? They had a play, they drew up a play, and Dart missed the throw that would have been the Sluggo Domingo that would have been a big play, but I don't know what it is, Ben. It's weird, and and we're going to talk about it in a little bit. It's one of the reasons that this game at Texas A&M Saturday night is so baffling to me. There is this narrative out there, and listen, I hope people are right, because, man, it would make my life a lot easier if I'm just being totally honest. That, Ole Miss is going to kill them. That narrative is out there, and it is everywhere. People are like, this is going to be easy. It's going to be a 10-point win, a 20-point win. I got to be honest with you, Ben, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It won't be the first time. It won't be the last time. I think this is going to be a really close football game.
Well, so we obviously take the gambling angle and get into that a lot. A lot of the gambling stuff I follow does not look good for us this week. A&M lost as a road favorite last week at South Carolina. Now they're in a bounce back home underdog spot. I always follow that trend. That's one of my favorites. I quote that on here 8 times a year. Then you look at the Ole Miss side of it. The DJ Durkin thing concerns me. He spent 2 years as our defensive coordinator. He knows our schemes. You got to think he's going to have some kind of game plan ready for our offense based on what LSU just did and the fact that he knows it. And I'm also a little bit worried about our run defense. However, I sound like I'm doom and gloom. Let's not kid ourselves. A&M's got, they're figuring out their quarterback situation's a mess. At least Ole Miss doesn't have freshmen getting high in the locker room, and that's a positive. When you got cultural stuff going on like they do, the dam's kind of breaking, and that's part of this NIL era we live in. Everybody made such a big deal about their freshman class. They ain't going to be loyal to A&M because they got a bunch of money. Come on, they're just like mercenaries. And
yeah, they're just kids.
I don't know.
They're kids too.
They're 18 years old and they've been told how great they are and they're 5 stars. And now they got $100K in their pocket, So I know A&M's going through a lot of cultural stuff and problems. Things are really looking bad. But if there was ever a rally the troops week, I think this is it. And so this thing's going to be a dogfight. I hope Ole Miss just pulls it out some way, somehow, because as bad as last week was, Ole Miss is still 7-1. If you win this game, I don't care if you win 10-9, 31-30, doesnwould matter.
Agreed.
You win this game, you're 8-1. You get a week to get healthy with the bye before the last 3 stretch run. That would just be, unbelievable. It's like a weird dynamic this week because Ole Miss got crushed. But we're still 7-1, and Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss is 17-3 in their last 21. 85% of our football games, man, it ain't all bad. It's just this is a huge the way, this is like that fork in the road for this season, though. I mean, I think you win this, you're looking at 9 or 10 in a great year. You lose this, and we're limping into the bye with a tough down the stretch thing. It could kind of go a little wrong.
I agree completely, and I'll go further. I think you're never going to be guaranteed to catch A&M at their place this weird, with so much going on. Jimbo's being questioned. Rumblings that, hey, they're going to really push him to please hire a coordinator and give up play calling, which is something that Jimbo does not want to give up. He's got players that it's well known they want to leave. They're leaving after the season. They're going to get in the portal. He's just got stuff. And you got the quarterback thing. He's insisting they're going to play Haynes King, even though a lot of people think this is an excuse to go play Wegman, the freshman. They've got injuries, multiple offensive linemen out for the season. I mean, they got stuff going on. You're not guaranteed to catch them like this again and again. And so this is an opportunity to win a game. And like you said, get to 8-1. It gets you into the open date, where Ole Miss needs an open date, some kind of bad. Like Ole Miss doesn't need to practice much next week. They need to just chill and get ready for Alabama. And it turns Alabama into, unless you're one of these people that thinks you're really contending for the SEC West. And if you are, cool, it's good. Maybe you're right. But it makes Alabama a free shot again. And, And then you try to take one or both from Arkansas and Mississippi State, you get to 9 wins, 10 wins. That's a successful season. But if you lose, now next week is negative. Alabama's big, and Alabama's not a great matchup for Ole Miss with those two kids off the edge, Anderson and Turner and Bryce Young and the running back. And there's a lot there, right?
Of course, there always is.
So if that game gets away from you, well, now you've lost 3 in a row, and you got to run up to Fayetteville, and it's going to
where we always struggle. Ole Miss always plays bad in Fayetteville, and then I hate to sound concerned, but it's going to be like November. It's going to be freezing cold up there, up in the mountains too.
And then you turn around, and if that were to go wrong, now you got a 4-game losing streak. You haven't won in 5 weeks, and you got to turn around in 5 days and play Mississippi State, who's going to be desperate to beat you. So this just feels like the fulcrum on the seesaw. It really does. And if I'm honest, and I look at it from the A&M perspective, if I'm Jimbo, everything I've got this week is going into figuring out a way to psychologically get my guys to play one more time. Because if they'll play this one time, maybe I can get them back another time. But if A&M comes out and lays a home egg and gets popped by Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin does a bunch of stuff on social media, and kids are like, screw this, man, the calendar turns to November, and those guys are like, I don't care anymore. Their season could just implode on them. So it just feels like this absolute critical mass moment for both teams, and I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel too. I'm not going to put a cent on the game. I just hope Ole Miss goes in there and wins. I do think it is important. Ole Miss started well against LSU. I think if you start well against A&M, they may not come back with all the stuff that's going on with A&M and the stuff we mentioned. So, and
they don't typically start well. They've had a bunch of games where they don't start well. And the one SEC game they won, they started poorly and happened to come back, and were very fortunate to win it against Arkansas. They haven't won since. They've had a shot against Alabama, though, right? Even though Bryce Young didn't play, you're like, if you need the evidence that defensively they can be good, there it is. And Ole Miss, Ben, is so beat up. And so, does Zach Evans play? And if he does, is he effective? The 2 freshman tackles did not play well last week. DJ Durkin saw that on film. He's going to attack them. Triggs not playing. Is A.J. Finley going to play? Because if he doesn't, that's a huge fall. Is Cedric Johnson healthy? Is Troy Brown healthy? They're just issues all over the field.
No, you're right. But like the belief, though, the beauty of it is I believe in Lane Kiffin and this coaching staff. And that's kind of the difference in this culture now. It's like when in doubt in game spots like that. In the past, it'd be like a little doom and gloom. But like, I just believe we're going to get it done because of the culture we got now. And I think Ole Miss has a lot more positive culture than A&M. And like I said, I'm not going to bet on it, but I think Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss wins a very close game. It's like what my instincts are saying. So
I've got the same pick. I really do. I've got the same exact pick. I think Ole Miss wins by 3-4 points. I think it's a close football game. The people that are saying otherwise hey, again, I hope you guys are right. Y'all are laughing at Ben and me because life would be a lot easier for me on Saturday night if Ole Miss were to win big. But we shall see. Let's talk about some other college games, and we'll do the NFL. There are some interesting games out there. Ohio State's at Penn State. A lot of people, self-included, starting to think Ohio State might be the best team in the country, Ben. It's a 15.5-point line at Penn State.
So you got to give Ohio State. Look, I know everybody's, always craps on them because they're scheduled, but scoring 50-something points against Iowa is no joke. And I know Iowa's offense gave them some, but you knew Iowa wouldn't be able to score. But for Ohio State, like I said, their yardage may have not been as great, but you don't see anybody ever put up 50 on Iowa. That literally doesn't happen. As far as this game goes, Penn State usually fights against Ohio State. This game year after year, it's always Ohio State's like a couple touchdown favorite, and Penn State seems to get a little sticky with them. Obviously, everybody saw what happened to Penn State at Michigan 2 weeks ago. I mean, Michigan ran for over 400 yards. They got completely embarrassed, 41-17. I think Ohio State, I can't lay 15.5 on the road here. I just can't do it. I mean, Happy Valley's 108,000 strong, whiteout, whatever. I'm Penn State or nothing. I don't think they can win this game, but 15.5 is just, damn, that's a lot of points on the road, if you're a pretty good team. So I don't feel great about it, but I would lean Penn State in points.
Does Syracuse bounce back at home against Notre Dame?
Boy, this Syracuse thing's been a weird story all year because all year you just keep looking up. You're just like, they're not that good. They're going to level off, and then they almost beat Clemson. They fight a ton. Brandon Walker's saying Notre Dame's like his lock of the week, but I'm kind of done bagging on Syracuse. They showed me something last week. They almost won at Clemson. I thought last week was you and I talked on here that was going to be the one where the water found its level and they were due to get smoked. And they showed hard. So, I'm going to probably be staying away from Syracuse, Notre Dame. But I don't want to. I'm not on Notre Dame like everybody else.
That's interesting. TCU's been red hot. They go to West Virginia. West Virginia's not a great team, but they're different in Morgantown. Sometimes things get a little squirrely for people when they go there. Is there any path to West Virginia spoiling the apple cart here?
Yeah, there is. I like West Virginia plus 7.5, a good bet. I think this is going to be, these Big 12 games are just nuts. I feel like TCU could win in a down to the wire game, and it wouldn't surprise me. But man, West Virginia, they're just so much better at home, and these teams have to travel so far to get there. And then on the other end of it, when they go on the road, they got to go 2,000, they have to travel so far, it screws them. But I like West Virginia in the points. Don't get me wrong, TCU, phenomenal story. They played a great second half too. They were down 28-17 at half and shut out K-State in the second half, but I got to take the 7.5 here.
All right, here's an interesting game. In the SEC, it's the 11 a.m. game. Arkansas is at Auburn. The last 2 seasons, Bo Nix has been the difference in this game. He was the reason that Auburn beat Arkansas. There is no Bo Nix. Auburn played pretty well at Ole Miss offensively. I think that's what that was. Arkansas is a 3.5-point favorite. They had an open date as well. They got some guys back on defense. I think Slusher's back in their secondary. What do you make of this game?
Man, I just think it's one of those spots where if Auburn was at Arkansas, I think I'd like Arkansas minus 8 a ton. But at Auburn, they still fight at home. Even with all their struggles, you saw them fight LSU. They definitely they got blown out by Penn State. But this game, Auburn's won some really weird games at Auburn in this series. We have to remember the couple times the refs just screwed Arkansas in this game the last few years. But I'm like Auburn or pass. It's hard to get excited about taking Auburn, but I feel like Arkansas looks a little like Brandon Walker has Arkansas as this big pick this week, but I don't know, man. I'm just not into laying 3.5 on the road. That's just a little weird for me.
I think I agree with you, by the way. I think Arkansas wins the game, but I think the line's a little big. I think it's that close. Oklahoma giving a point in Ames to Iowa State. Iowa State's going to want to kick Oklahoma's ass with all this Big 12 stuff. It's just kind of a weird spot, isn't it?
Yeah, this is just a bad spot for Oklahoma, I think. I just think Iowa State, this is just there's not a very fun team to play. We saw Iowa State almost beat Texas. They're good in this underdog role. You know how much it means for them to beat Oklahoma. And, I know Oklahoma beat Kansas pretty bad a couple of weeks ago, but they still got a ton of problems. Different team when Gabriel plays, though. Much different. Offense is better, but I lean Iowa State here in the home underdog spot. I just don't have any faith in Oklahoma right now.
The biggest line in the history of this Florida-Georgia game is 22.5 at Saturday. Florida getting 22.5 points in Jacksonville. The money line's plus 1,400. I mean, they're not beating Georgia, but they could cover 22.5, couldn't they?
They could. God, I mean, I hate to be like this. I don't have any. I guess I'm Florida or nothing, but I just don't know on this one. When you look at Florida's defense has been pretty. I mean, I haven't been very impressed. I mean, obviously, I saw LSU played against us too. 22.5 is a ton in a rivalry game, but the thing with Georgia, it's like, they'll be ready for Florida because they hate them and it's the Jacksonville and all that. We all saw them sleepwalk against Missouri and they've looked kind of bad some games, but in games where they're like need to come out and be ready, like the Oregon game, and then they hammered Auburn, even if it was close for a while. It seems like when they can get up for it and they're ready, you don't want to mess with them, but then maybe you can get them in some trap spots. And I think they'll be ready for this one. So I guess Florida, if anything, I don't have a strong read on it. Just the long and short of it. I don't ever like laying 22 points in anything, though.
It's just so many points. Oklahoma State.
It just can't do it.
Oklahoma State getting a 1.5 on the road at Kansas State. I mean, I have a working life theory. If you're going to give me Oklahoma State and points, I typically will take it. I like their program, but Kansas State's a weird place to go play. Deuce Vaughn's played really well. They've done a great job with Taylor Martinez. So K-State's a 1.5 favorite at home against Oak State. What do you think?
We hit that Oak State against Texas last week. We were on that one. I couldn't believe Texas was 6.5 there, but K-State had that great, man. What a great, they were 28-17 at half, and then they got shut out in that second half by TCU. I mean, this is like you said, I mean, it's kind of a coin flip game. I think I lean to K-State to bounce back, and Oklahoma State kind of in a weird spot after an emotional win against Texas, now having to go to a weird place on the road. So I'm K-State or nothing here. I think I'm going to probably bet K-State small.
Okay. Am I crazy to think that Nebraska could do something at home against Illinois?
What kind of world are we living in when Illinois is laying 7.5 in Lincoln, Nebraska? You see that line, you're just like, I mean, Illinois is pretty good though. They got good coordinators and Chase Brown that runs the ball well. They've got a good pass D. Bielema has, done a spectacular job.
He has.
But I ain't laying the 7.5 on the road here with Illinois. I think I might end up taking Nebraska in the points here. I just, it's one thing that Illinois is playing well and playing better, but when you start having to lay over a touchdown on the road with them, that won't be me doing that.
One that I'm actually thinking about because I think it's I think it might be free after all the heat that he's taken all week. I don't hate Iowa laying 11 against Northwestern. Northwestern's just awful.
Yeah, they are. No runners like really low at 37.
37, yeah.
I still like the under. I think I was going to win like 17-7. It's going to be just something just god awful. So it's just the only thing with Iowa. I see your point. I don't think they'll lose, but it's so hard to lay 11 when the over-under is 37. If the over-under is in the 60s, sure, I'll lay 11, but man, what's 37? God bless. So I think I'm just going to take the under, even if it's that low.
Missouri getting 4 at South Carolina. The Gamecocks beat A&M. They jump into the poll, yet Vegas doesn't love them. I think Vegas watches our boy Spencer Rattler and goes, oh.
Missouri's got a pretty good defense, too. They're just quarterback play. That Cook's like one of the lowest QBRs in the whole country. He's miserable. The line looks ratty, though, like you said. South Carolina, they got a lot of credit for the Kentucky win when they didn't have Levis. Credit to South Carolina. They went on the road and won. All you can do is win, the situation in front of you. And they beat A&M, but I still don't believe in them. I think the line looks ratty. So, I would lean Missouri, which I kind of feel like I can tell you think so.
Yeah, I don't hate the Missouri money line here at plus 150. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Missouri won the game.
I wouldn't either.
I don't hate it at all. The Kentucky money line is plus 360. They're a 12-point dog in Knoxville. As much as I'd love to see Kentucky do this, I don't know that it can.
I think that I kind of see this as a game that's a fight in the first half, but then they just in the third and fourth quarter, Tennessee extends it. Kentucky just doesn't have I don't think they have enough firepower to keep up for 4 quarters, but I do think their defense will keep them in it early. And I wouldn't be shocked if this game was like tied or something like that at half, but I just feel like Tennessee's got too much firepower in the third or fourth quarter and end up winning by a couple touchdowns.
So we talked about Ole Miss and Texas A&M. It's interesting, Ben. Earlier today, the line was 2.5. It's gone down to 2. The over/under has stayed 55. Ole Miss is minus 135 money line. Texas A&M's not a big bargain. It's only plus 115. I don't know what I always am looking for, like, what's Vegas's motivation here? What are they trying to do? It just tells you that a little bit of money is starting to come in on A&M, and they're pulling that line down a little. It's just such a weird game with the injuries and the intrigue and all the stuff. If it were my real money, I don't think I'd touch this game.
That's where that's exactly where I am too. Gosh, I guess I might take a look at under 55 if I had to take something, because A&M's just struggling on offense right now. And, I could see this game being, not a shootout. Last year, Ole Miss won, obviously had the pick six, but what, Ole Miss won like 27-17 or something last year?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, remember there was a big pick six in the fourth that sealed it. But it wasn't a shootout last year at all. And, like I said, I keep coming back to it, but the DJ Durkin thing's a real thing. I mean, he knows a ton of our schemes. He knows Lane. He knows everything. So, obviously Charlie Weiss wasn't there, but you just got to think he's going to have some kind of game plan. And then, and as crappy as A&M's been, they hadn't gotten blown out once. All their losses were close. So I might end up on the under. I'm not putting anything on Ole Miss. I do have one other pick. I like Central Florida as a home dog against Cincinnati. Central Florida had a bad loss at East Carolina last week. They're in that bounce back spot I talk about, and they're plus like 1 or 2 at home. I like them to bounce house to beat Cincinnati.
All right, let's jump into the NFL. A trade being made as we tape this on Wednesday afternoon. I don't know if you saw this. Robert Quinn from the Bears goes to the Eagles.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that.
Yeah, Philly going for it, man. They're all in, as you should. When you've got a shot, you should go all in. You should not worry about the future as a professional franchise when you have a shot to win the whole thing this year. You should play.
And it also doesn't hurt them that they've got the Saints first-round pick, which could be a top 10 pick. So that probably doesn't suck for them either.
No, it doesn't, for sure.
So, but Philly is going all in. And, when you look at it right now, what's happened to this NFC? I mean, you really look at the NFC. You got the Packers, the Bucks, the Rams, and the Niners, who are 4 of the favorites, all struggling at 3 and 4. And so it's kind of created this power vacuum, and the NFC East has seized it. You got the Eagles, Giants, and Cowboys all playing well. But, the NFC's kind of like melted down. The Vikings are playing pretty good too, but it's just wild seeing, Aaron Rodgers and Brady and the Super Bowl defending champ Stafford, and the Niners are just all struggling. And so, I think Philly's taking advantage of that. And Philly, I'd almost be shocked if they don't get the 1 seed in home field at this point, even if we're only 7 weeks in. That's just how it's looking right now.
The Bears, by the way, get a 4th-round pick from Philadelphia in exchange for Quinn. Quinn's 32 years old. He was a team captain for the Bears, but the Bears obviously are not contending this season. And so you unload some salary and get an extra pick and fight for another day. All right,
makes sense.
People will be watching this when this Thursday night game is going on. Baltimore, a 1-point favorite on the road at Tampa. What am I missing?
Man, this is one of those spots where Tampa lost as a road favorite at Carolina and Pittsburgh, and now they're a slight home underdog. So I'm going to cringe and not enjoy hitting Smith with my Tampa bet, but it's coming. How can you bet on Tampa after how they looked at Carolina last week? God only knows, but it's the trend I follow, so we're doing it.
All right, that's interesting. You're not alone apparently. Let's see. You got I guess this is a London game, Denver at Jacksonville.
We got to talk about this Russell Wilson situation for a quick second.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Denver, by the way, we'll give the line to the people. Denver, a 2.5-point underdog against Jacksonville. The over/under on this just 39.5. The Denver money line 115. The Jacksonville money line minus 135.
All right, Jacksonville, they play well. And they always have a London game every year because their owner owns that. But Fulham, the Premier League team.
Yeah.
They've been, even when Jacksonville stinks, which is very often, they play well in London. Like every year, it's been a thing. They've got a bunch of upsets in London. I know I'm taking Jacksonville just because they're used to the London thing. But this Russell Wilson thing, I don't know. I mean, I just think his teammates hate it. I think his whole act, and I know he's probably a good person and Christian, and I'm not trying to hate on any of that, but he just comes off so phony and fake with all the manners and stuff.
For sure.
And just you can it's the old winning, the Bear Bryant saying, the winning is the deodorant for everything. Like if you're winning, nobody cares. You can get away with this, whatever. It's just like, oh, it's just rust, whatever. But when it starts going like this, when you're making $165 million guaranteed on your contract, I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a lot of resentment in that locker room toward him. And I think that might be putting it mildly.
I'm with you. I love the Jags as a pick. Love it. And then to be honest, I kind of like where I'm going next here. The Jets at home against the Patriots. The Jets getting 2.5 points. The Patriots are kind of chaos right now. Jets are playing well. I know that they lost Breece Hall, but they made the trade with Jacksonville.
Good move getting James Robinson. Good move. He's good.
Yeah, I kind of like the Jets here plus 2.5.
The only thing about it that I don't know is it's like I always talk about the Sunday and Monday night factor. Everybody saw what just happened in New England, yet they're still favored here. I feel like everybody's going to be on the Jets at 5-2. Something about this game feels a little off to me. I'm not saying I'm taking New England, but I'm probably going to pass. Because, how can everyone not like the Jets after what just happened on Monday against the Bears and the quarterback controversy? And the Jets are 5-2 and their fans are all hyped. I don't know. Just something seems off here. So I'm going to sit this one out.
Okay. Pittsburgh heads to Philadelphia. The Eagles just made the Quinn trade. They're 10.5-point favorite against their in-state rival, the Steelers.
10.5. I just can't lay 10.5 in pro football, but I just can't do it. But I don't like the Steelers necessarily either with Pickett as a rookie. And man, I'm probably going to sit this one out. What's the over under? I can see it being low scoring.
43.
I kind of think this could be an under possibly. I think the Steelers defense will fight extremely hard. We've also seen the Eagles get up by 2 or 3 touchdowns. They've had these crazy second quarters. The Eagles have 112 points in the second quarter. And saw the second most in the NFL is 80. I mean, they're having these nuts second quarters, but then they've been getting up 2 or 3 touchdowns and they've just been freezing it in the second half. And so I might take a look at the under 43 here.
Okay. Couple 3.5-point lines at noon. Miami goes to Detroit. The Dolphins giving 3.5 there in Detroit. What do you think?
I think this is a props bet game, and whatever you see on Tyreek Hill's over and Jalen Waddle's over and them to just have crazy 150-yard games, look at it. Because on this fast track in Detroit with how many points, I know Dak didn't play well against Detroit, and he played better last week, but Detroit's defenses, the first 4 weeks they allowed 140 points. We were at the Seattle, Detroit games 48, 45. You're telling me the speed that Tyreek Hill and Waddle have on that fast track against that defense? They could have some crazy, crazy numbers. And so I'm going to take a look at Hill's over and Waddle's over and maybe parlay some of that stuff. And I'm looking at over 51.5 in the game. But that's kind of the way I'm going about it.
The Cardinals, terrible at home, sometimes pretty good on the road. They go to a Minnesota team that's good at home. The Arizona Cardinals getting 3.5 in Minneapolis against the Vikings.
Tough one to call here, to be honest, because like you said, Arizona, that Saints Thursday night game. That I don't even know what you say. They went from 14-6 to 27-14 in 3 minutes with all those turnovers. Arizona plus 3.5 seems like the right line here. Minnesota's off a bye. Honestly, the hell if I know on this one, to be truthful. I'm just gonna call I see it, but I've been going back and forth. Arizona's pretty good. Minnesota is better at home, but then they barely beat Chicago and Detroit at home. They're off a bye. I don't know. I might take over 49 maybe.
The Panthers head to Atlanta. The NFC South totally up for grabs with all losing teams. The Panthers getting 4.5 in Atlanta against the Falcons.
I love Atlanta in this game. This is such a good battle. They just got smacked at Cincy. Carolina played their best game of the year, beating a bad Tampa team 21-3. But Atlanta's been tough at home. They just beat the Niners at home. If they finally didn't cover a week at Cincinnati, I think Atlanta bounces back. I think Atlanta wins this game by 2 touchdowns at home. I don't think this is any problem. I might even move the 4.5 up to 6.5 possibly.
Oh, okay. Raiders go to New Orleans to play your Saints. The Raiders a 1.5-point favorite in New Orleans, which tells you so much about where the Saints are right now.
Yeah, it's still early in the week, and so who the heck knows who's suiting up for New Orleans at this point with all the injuries. I will say this. something about the Raiders and Saints in New Orleans and Halloween weekend with those two franchises kind of feels right, doesn't it? I mean, just kind of like a little bit of the wilder, franchises kind of in a way. But I never bet against the Saints, but I can't take them right now with everything going on. So I'm probably gonna stay away. Maybe go over 49.5 here. I know it's a high over under, but these Saints games have been getting wild lately. I mean, they've been going way over the number. The Bengals game, the Arizona game, Minnesota game in London, the Seattle game. I mean, the Saints went from. I mean, they're an over team right now, and so I might keep riding these overs until they get in the 50s.
All right, talk me out of this because last week I laid
I ruined you. You're right. I mean,
last week
what is Jacksonville doing going for it when they're up 4, though? You kick a field goal there. You're playing a Giants offense that's not like anything. I mean, they're pretty good, but, how do you not go up by 7? These coaches – and then also, the other one, this is something on analytics. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent about this, but whatever.
Okay.
So, Miami's up 6. I had Miami by 7 over Pittsburgh. They're up 6. They got 4th and 2 on Seattle on Pittsburgh's 20, third quarter.
Kick a field goal.
Look, here's the thing with the analytics. They say, it's 51%. You go for it and you win, so you take it. You've got to analyze, are you playing Patrick Mahomes? Are you playing Kenny Pickett? Like the analytics don't, you factor it in. It's like a computer model, but it doesn't factor in who's playing quarterback on the other team. You're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Damn right you go for it because you got to score touchdowns. Yeah, you're playing that crappy O-line anyway. Y'all can tell I'm
up 2. If you get up 2 scores right there, I'm with you completely.
You're up 9. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm ranting about that. I was really salty because Miami was like my big bet last week.
All right, here's my game, though. I've got the Cowboys laying 9.5 against the Bears. A week ago, I laid a bunch of points with Dallas. They covered it. I don't know what I've seen from the Bears. I know what happened against the Patriots. We talked about that. Why am I not just laying 9.5 again here? I mean, this feels like a blowout.
The line does feel like a blowout, and I lean Dallas too because after how Chicago looked Monday night, Dallas did cover against Detroit, but they struggled. I thought this line might be 7.5 or 8, and Vegas puts it at 9.5. Vegas is daring people to bet the Bears. I mean, you got to think that, especially after they look good Monday. So yeah. I like Dallas too.
I do too. Here's another interesting line. The Titans have really looked good the last 3 or 4 weeks. They go to Houston. They're going to play the Texans. Everybody in Houston's going to be thinking about the World Series, not about this game. The Texans are not a good team. Tennessee's a 2-point favorite in Houston. What do you think?
I think Tennessee does their traditional thing where they play, no matter who they play, it's close, and they win by a field goal ugly. Because that's what Tennessee does, though. I mean, I feel like I know they got blown out at Buffalo, and I was wrong about that one, but early in the year. But and they just play those ugly, like low scoring, like close games, and I think that's another one coming here. So I do think Tennessee will win, but I'm not like super, running to bet them. I mean, I think it's going to be a very close game.
All right, the game of the week in the NFL, and who would have ever saw this coming in the preseason? If I told you, hey, man, week 8 or whatever this is, the Giants-Seahawks game in Seattle is going to be the game of the week, you would have said, Neil, are you feeling okay? You all right? And I would have said, yeah, I feel great. You'd be like, I think something happened to him. The Giants getting 3 at Seattle, 3:25, your primetime game. Both of these teams, we can say what they want to about them, Ben, but they both just keep winning.
Well, the Seattle thing, Seattle's 25-1 to win the NFC West before the year. They're in first place right now. That is, nuts. 25-1 to win a 4-team division. I mean, I got burned last week going against the Giants in a similar spot. I remember I talked you out of that one. I hate to double that. I still kind of like Seattle. I don't know. I mean, I just Seattle robbed them. I think they're good. Yeah. Kenneth Walker's really stepping up, and now they got a good running game. I don't think DK got carted off, but it's not bad. I don't think he's going to play. I'm not sure I would think he's out this week. This is Wednesday, so I'm not totally sure. But I'm Seattle or nothing, but I don't love it because Giants, their fourth quarter stuff, they're so well coached. They show a lot of heart.
Commanders go to Indianapolis to play the Colts. Another 3:25 game. Washington getting 2.5.
Just what a funny deal with like the Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan thing. Yeah. The Matt Ryan thing is unprecedented. Jim Irsay made this call. What happened with Ryan? He's benched for the year because he makes $12 million now, but by yanking him, they're saving themselves $17 million, which is like if he got hurt at all, there's some kind of like injury thing in his contract where he'd lock up 17 million more. And Jim Irsay like literally said to Frank Reich, be like, this guy ain't worth it. Put him on the bench. So he's done. He ain't playing again in Indy, even if Ellinger gets hurt, just because of that money. It's crazy. I've never really seen a situation like that before, to be honest. But Commanders are better with Heineke than Wentz, it looks like. I mean, I kind of wasn't shocked they played better. I mean, Heineke, I don't know. I feel like the Wentz thing, we're about on its last legs now. I know he got hurt, but, he's had a bunch of shots around the league. He hadn't taken advantage of it. I think he's going to be a backup going forward. I mean, it's hard to know what Sam Ellinger is going to look like as a pro NFL quarterback. You might know more than I do on this one. I mean, I just don't quarterback stuff makes it. I can't take it. I don't think.
Yeah, you don't hate Washington. Over-under is just 39.5. All right, what will be a good game, because it always is when these two teams play each other. The Niners, the Rams, they get together in Los Angeles. The Niners, God, it's crazy, isn't it? The Niners are 1.5-point favorite on the road against the defending Super Bowl champs. Go figure.
Yeah, that's what's weird to me. You'd think the Rams would be favored, but, I mean, I hit this matchup hard earlier this year. Kyle Shanahan, I mean, the only time McVay's beaten Shanahan was in the NFC Championship. The Niners dominate this series every year. And it's one of those things, NFL's like a matchup game or whatever. And for whatever reason, the Niners always beat the Rams and the Rams always beat the Cardinals. And those are just two things you can count in the bank. So I'm taking the Niners, even though it looks crazy laying the 1.5 on the road. But until Kyle Shanahan starts losing McVay, I just take him every time in this match.
If I told you after we had our conversation about Seattle and the Giants, if I'd said, hey, guess what? That Sunday night game that week is going to be Packers and the Bills. And you'd have been like, oh, that's going to be a great game. And I said, no, Buffalo's an 11-point favorite. You'd have thought, man, I don't know how he got where he got in media. Buffalo's favored by 11 on Sunday night against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And, hey, I got to be honest, I'm not touching an 11-point game probably. But if you told me I had to, I'd lay the 11.
The only thing is Rodgers, he said it so many times through the years, like the relaxed thing. He felt positive at the press conference last week. I mean, you lost the Jets and Commanders back to back, so I don't know how positive you can feel. But every single time he said that through the years, they've always bounced back. I mean, it's how many times is he given that exact speech? Like 5. So I mean, I'm either Green Bay or nothing here. I just can't lay 10.5. I just can't do it. I mean, I know Green Bay stinks, and that's true, but I just can't lay Aaron Rodgers 10.5 points in a football game.
All right, finally, the Monday night game. It's Halloween night. It should be a lot of fun on Halloween. You got the Bengals, the Browns, two teams with orange in their color schemes. Battle of Ohio. The Bengals looked super last week at home. Against Atlanta. They lay 3.5 in Cleveland against the Browns. Deshaun Watson's return. I mean, hey, there's a lot here.
No, well, Watson still. I think he comes back against Houston.
It comes back. Okay, someone.
No. Okay, that's. I just swore. All good. I swore. Cleveland has just torched my money this year because I thought they were in good spots against New England. They've gotten me 2 or 3 times. So I'm done with it. So I'm probably staying away from this because Cincinnati looks pretty suckery, laying 3.5 and like the battle for Ohio. They'll be fired up Monday night in Cleveland, but I can't take Cleveland. I'm just they've done that Chargers home loss and that New England loss. They've just done too much to me. So I don't feel good about laying this 3.5 of Cincinnati either. So I know that's a long-winded way of saying I don't know.
So I know last week you had one hell of a weekend traveling. You were all over the place. I'm assuming this week you're a little more low key, kind of hanging there.
Very, very much more low key. Casey Smith and I are going to do an Ole Miss A&M preview video that y'all see. That ought to be pretty fun. Figuring that out. But no, this weekend I'm chilling in New York, and I'm going to watch football all day Saturday and Sunday. Next weekend I got to go to the Bears Lake Charles, one of our Penn properties, for another one of Roan's gambling tournaments, but I think that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be LSU Bama weekend too, down in Louisiana. And, it would really be fun if the Phillies Astros game 7 was then too, because that'd be great. But that's kind of my next trip I got planned. I'm not definitive on the Ole Miss Bama yet, but I'm trying hard to make Ole Miss Bama and Oxford, especially baseball teams, getting their rings. And so I'm trying to make that too. So we'll see. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. I kind of made a very rookie, amateurish decision for somebody that's 39 years old. But I was like all for sure not going to go to Ole Miss LSU and go to Colorado And then I agreed to that 3-year extension. I got a little bonus. And so I'm just like, how the hell can I miss this game? I've been to 21 out of 24. So, I definitely punted some money switching flights like an idiot. And so we're going to have to lick some wounds for a few weeks after that, but it's okay. You live and you learn.
All right. Halloween is Monday night, Ben. I'm guessing that in a previous life, you were a pretty big Halloween candy guy, but now you're running 70-minute 10Ks. You dropped a bunch of weight. Are you avoiding the Halloween candy?
Halloween candy. We're good on that. But I will say this is going to air on Thursday. I hit 30 months no alcohol today, so 2.5 years. Pretty good. I look back on it, and I've been a little sentimental lately on the journey to Barstool and everything that's happened. But it's been really cool to live, and I'm very grateful. So that's a big thing. And, I got a ways to go, but man, I'm 39 years old. I'm ripping off 10Ks. We ain't doing, we're not doing that bad. We're not doing that bad.
You're doing great. I saw that today. I was like, way to go, man. That's awesome.
So we're going to keep it up. But usually Halloween though, like the older, I'm a big rock and roll guy. I usually go see like a big concert for Halloween. I might go see the band Ween at Beacon Theater Monday night. That might be what I do. So we'll see.
When you were a kid, what was your Halloween go-to candy? What was the one?
I was always like Reese's, man. I always like the Reese's peanut butter. And also, how could I not? The namesake, but I was always a Junior Mintz guy. I mean, come on. And I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. The mint chocolate chip, the mint chip at the Oxford Creamery. Shout out. It's spectacular.
All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks so much for your time, as always, each and every week. Enjoy your weekend. Look forward to visiting with you again. I guess. Well, yeah, next week. We'll
do it next week. Give it the off week. Safe travels to A&M, and hopefully the Rebels get a win. And I've thanked everyone a bunch already, but thanks again to the Ole Miss fans. Like I said, 3 more years at Barstool. I mean, crazy, hard to believe.
Congratulations again, buddy. Talk to you soon. Again, our thanks to both of our guests today, David Nuno of TexAgs.com, Ben Mintz of BarstoolSports.com as well. Make sure that you reach out to them on social media. Tell them you appreciate them spending some of their Thursday here with us on Hand Raised Guys. Again, our thanks to Comer Heating and Air, Southern Air Conditioning and Heating for making this show possible each and every week. We'll put this up in podcast form on Friday morning as the Oxford Exxon podcast. And we'll have coverage on Saturday of Texas A&M and Ole Miss from Kyle Field. We'll get video to you. We'll have my commentary. We'll have Chase's observations as well. And then we'll have a little bit of an old school post-game show, the MPW Digital post-game show presented by Dead Soxy. That's coming your way on Saturday night. I'll be along for the ride this time, as I'm not making the trip to College Station. It'll be 2 of us, Chase and I. We'll talk about the game. We'll visit with Jeffrey Wright. We'll visit with Brian Rippey. We'll take your calls on the Rafters Music and Food Hotline on Saturday night. So thanks again for making us a part of your week. We look forward to visiting with you on Saturday night, and we'll be back again on Monday morning, of course, with another edition of the Oxford Exxon podcast. Until then, take care.